Non-competes in South Carolina. Whether you're an employer trying to draft one, an employee maybe signing one, or an employee looking to depart and understand the terms, it's important to know what is enforceable. Today, we're going to talk about what's enforceable, tips for employers, tips for employees, and other types of agreements and clauses that might be in your contract. I'm Wesley Henderson with HH Law. Thanks for joining us. Stick around and we'll show you everything you need to know about non-competes. As a business lawyer here in South Carolina, I have reviewed and drafted dozens and dozens of non-competes. As you probably know, non-competes continue to be a little bit disfavored. There's been efforts to get rid of them entirely, and you see a lot of courts moving away from the enforcement of them. One of the reasons is there's other ways to protect a business, and a lot of times the businesses go too far in creating them, meaning they limit what an employee can do. The purpose of a non-compete is really not to, trap an employee. The purpose is to protect a business, a legitimate interest. The business trains an employee or works with a particular client and wants to protect that relationship. A lot of these things can be enforceable, but when it goes too far, they aren't enforceable. So what are you looking at when you're looking at your non-compete? There's three main areas that the non-compete needs to be limited in. It's geography. So is it a nationwide non-compete? You can't cut hair anywhere in the United States. That's going to be way too far. Or does it say you can't cut hair in 3 miles of this facility? You're looking at, so geography, you're looking at the types of services. Is it just a cutting hair? Or is it anything? Is it too broad? And then you're also looking, your third thing is how long is the non-compete? Depending on the setting, you're looking at that differently. So sometimes if you're selling a business to a buyer, you can put a very long non-compete in there. But if it's an employee, you usually want to keep a shorter time period. So if I am drafting a non-compete for an employer, I will say, let's make sure we get it narrow enough so that we know for certain it's enforceable, because it's so easy to fight these things. When an employer comes to me to help them draft one, I explain to them that South Carolina's rules are, if any of this is too broad, then the entire thing is void. So if the geography is too far, the whole thing's out. There's an important concept because other states have what's called a blue pencil ruling. So if it's too far, a judge can say, oh, it shouldn't be nationwide, it should be 10 miles, and then go enforce it. However, in South Carolina, if you overkick your coverage, the whole thing is out. So it's super important. So I'm always advising employers specifically to make sure you tailor this very tightly to exactly what it is to protect your business interests. So the case law on non-competes always comes back to, is the purpose of this non-compete to protect a legitimate business interest? So you have to be able to look at that exact employee and say, oh, this is what's needed to protect my company. Not, hey, I don't want them competing at all for 2 years. That sort of blanket stuff is usually going to lose. So whenever an employer comes to me, I say, make sure that we got something we can enforce. So let's, instead of 2 years, look at 9 months. Let's look at how many miles we need. Where are these clients? And so it doesn't take long. It's a 20, 30-minute discussion, and we can really dial that in. The other thing that I talk to employers about is there's non-solicitations, another great way to protect your business. Most employees, when I'm working with employees, also understand this. It says, basically, hey, when I leave, I can't poach clients. I can't poach other employees. So if I want to leave, I can leave under these rules, but I'm not taking things with me, not taking confidential information, trade secrets. Both employees and employers tend to feel that that's a pretty fair clause usually in there, and you see those enforced a lot easier than non-competes. All right, so let's say you're an employee and you're wondering about what your non-compete says. What you're looking for is that the types of services that you were prevented from performing when you're leaving, how long, and how far. Sometimes it gets a little tricky with, you could be in sales and you're working on Zoom and you're working all over the Southeast or across the country. We review probably 20 non-competes a year, and they're very nuanced and they're very case by case. So you want to make sure before you sign it that you have someone review it. You can always push back on these things. It's a little bit awkward because you're excited about the job. But you need to know that at some point that contract will come up. And let's say you come to me on the back end. We also get a lot of people say, hey, I've got this new job offer. What can I do? And we will train them and walk them and strategize on the best way. Let's say it is enforceable. There are best practices on how to approach your employer in a fair way to try to disarm that employer and get out into that new position. But you don't want to be in a circumstance where you've got the dream job and you're unable to take it. So you really want to read these agreements and not get too carried away with, hey, super excited about the new job. You got to understand what that says. And there's usually some give and take you can give there. The employer's already offered you the job. They want you. So, you've got a little bit of leverage there. So you want to just make sure if the non-compete's there, make sure you're getting properly compensated for potentially having to take a year off of work. So these non-competes, they become very, very common. They can be very expensive to litigate, which is one of the things that can kind of be good to resolve it, because employers don't want to spend a lot of money on it and employees don't want to spend a lot of money on it. But understanding how they're enforceable can make this exit a lot easier, both from the employer and employee side. If you're an employer, you need help drafting, please contact our office. If you're an employee and you want to understand it, we run a flat fee on reviewing and giving you that information as to what's enforceable. So please contact us, links below, and give us any comments if you got any questions.